When Volkswagen acquired Rolls Royce in 1998, it didn't take the name. Those rights went to BMW. What Volkswagen did get were all the plans and facilities necessary to make a world-class luxury car. In the deal, they also got Bentley, which had been a subsidiary of Rolls Royce since 1931. Now, the motor in this car is a 4-liter V8. It has 2 twin-scroll turbos. And that is how this car gets up to speed so quickly with like 0 turbo lag. It's because of those 2 twin-scroll turbos. They put out over 520 horsepower and about 502 pound-feet of torque. It is intoxicating. The 2003 Bentley Continental GT was the first new Bentley under Volkswagen ownership. That car was powered by a twin-turbocharged W12. These days, even supercars for the super rich need to be more efficient. So the chaps over at Bentley talked to the guys over at Audi, and they developed a brand new twin-turbocharged V8 to replace that old W12. The new engine puts out 521 horsepower and 502 pound-feet of torque. That's more than an Audi S8. Best of all, it gets 24 miles to the gallon on the highway. We won't talk about city. Let's go ahead and start it up because that is really in any supercar, that's where the fun starts. Simple push button start. Now, immediately I am greeted by these actually quite lovely gauges. There are a couple things that are already, though, kind of starting to bug me. The first thing is that this center display is clearly a low-res display. It's a little fuzzy. It doesn't say contemporary. It says like 10-year-old screen technology. $250,000 car, that's not as good as I would like it to be. I do have to say that they've done an excellent job with some of the minor touches in this car, like they have the Breitling clock over there. It has this lovely Bentley badge in the steering wheel, and really this thing is front to back leather, and it's actually a remarkable amount of leather in one vehicle. Everything from the dash to the center cluster to the elbow rest to the steering wheel, even where you hit the horn. Sounds a little bit like a train. This car does have one really cool modern feature, and that's adaptive cruise control. That means that it'll sense how far you are from the car in front of you. You set a target speed, and it'll keep a cushion regardless of how fast you want to go. It'll pace the car in front of you with a certain gap. So let's just say I set the adaptive cruise control to 90 miles an hour, which we would not do because, of course, that would be illegal. Well, if the car in front of you is doing 50, you can maintain a pacing of 3 to 4 car paces behind it at the speed that they are doing. That way it's a perfectly safe and comfortable way to go down the freeway. But beyond that, there's not a lot of modern stuff in this vehicle. You do have a touch screen in the middle. It is slow, it is old. It does not seem to have a lot of functionality. Yes, you do have XM radio, standard radio. You also have, map and navigation, and then there's a guide of some sort. But the icons are all very big and square. Everything is slow to respond. Typing in an address, most of the time it wouldn't even find the address for me. So not really impressed by the tech. The suspension has 4 different modes. Slide it from comfort all the way to sport. Sport will firm up the suspension. Comfort gives you a lot smoother of a ride. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the ride height. Every once in a while, you might need to take a little excursion off-road if you're going to, say, have a picnic with some champagne. Naturally, you would then drive through the country. If you're driving in the country in a car like this, you can do that without worrying about scraping the underside because it has, yes, that's right, height adjustable suspension. This baby will shift up a good inch using the airbags, and then you can go back down to normal when you're back on the highway. It's pretty cool stuff. Let's talk powertrain in this car. Up front is a twin turbocharged V8, and it makes wonderful noises. Let me put it into neutral. That is the best thing about this car. The power is then pushed to all four wheels using an advanced all-wheel drive system. Now the default is a 40% in the front, 60 in the rear, so it feels like a rear-wheel drive car, but of course as wheels slip, you end up getting torque shuffled around for maximum grip potential. So let's put the top up on this northwest rainy afternoon and see how it is on the open road. If you thought that this car lost anything going from a W12 to the twin turbo V8, oh boy, you'll be in for a surprise. This thing is fast. Now, the all-wheel drive system in this car has a 40 front, 60 rear torque split. That gives you a sporty feel without compromising all-wheel drive ability. And of course, if you get a little bit of slip, the car will push power around to optimize traction. It is a superbly good system. The transmission is an 8-speed automatic. It is a proper automatic, not a dual clutch system, and it provides lightning quick shifts. Or you just put it into drive mode and drive it like it were everyday thing. Let's go ahead and see how this car does in a 0 to 60 situation. We're going to come to a complete stop. Going to put the car into sport, but keep it in automatic. And 3, 2, 1, go. 40 and 60. Wet conditions, properly quick. The great thing about driving a Bentley is that they are not terribly common. In fact, I see more Ferraris in the Northwest than I do Bentleys. For whatever reason why, the fact is, people notice this car and they come up and they talk to you and they are so fascinated with a Bentley. If I was to use one word to describe the Continental GT, it would be effortless. It does everything just as though it were just a second thought. What, you want to go 100 miles an hour? Done. The suspension has 4 different modes, from most comfortable to most sporty, which of course most sporty means rock hard. Or at least it would in any other supercar. But in this car, it's actually still very pliant. It's still very livable, because that's kind of the whole idea of the Continental GT, is that it is a supercar that you can live with every single day. The gauge cluster is extremely readable in this car. You can see the speed all the way up to 200. The car can't do a full 200, but you can do 180 pretty easily in this thing. Now, there are some things that do kind of say more Volkswagen than Bentley, such as the plates surrounding this Bentley gear shifter. It kind of reminds me of some of the things that I've seen in the Volkswagens. Also, some of the buttons and switchgear, I don't know if they're shared with Volkswagen because I don't have a Volkswagen side by side to this one, but there are similarities in design. That said, this car drives nothing like any Volkswagen that I've driven. Punch it, woo! It has a certain attitude and brusqueness that you just don't get in a Volkswagen. Even the Audi R8 is way more of a razor blade. This is a blunt hammer in a very, very good way. It's kind of like the muscle supercar, you could say. The British meets German muscle supercar. love that sound. For the price of this car, you could buy an Audi S8 as well as a smaller R8, which I think would be the better combination. So would you get the Bentley or two absolutely fabulous Audis? Personally, I'd probably get the two Audis. Let's just say that I did have a debutante daughter, and I was considering the Continental GT. There are a couple things that I would like to see on this car that it does not currently have available. Blind spot monitoring. I think that's actually a very important thing, especially for young drivers, but I mean, I can't think of an argument where blind spot monitoring isn't a good idea. I would also like to see cross traffic alert. That's where when you're pulling out of a parking spot, it notifies you if a car is coming from the left or the right. This is a convertible and visibility is actually quite good, but it's not perfect. It would be good to get that tech.
You could say that the Bentley Continental GT V8 S is a wonderful, unique, and somewhat flawed specimen of a supercar. But we have to give thanks to Volkswagen for letting Bentley retain its singular uniqueness. In a world where makers are competing to bring the most wings, horsepower, and carbon fiber to market, the Bentley Continental GT stands as a supercar that throws that all aside with an endearing stubbornness. Due in part to the Great Depression, as well as founder W.O. Bentley's singular focus on winning the greatest races of its day, Bentley Motorcars was forced to seek financial shelter of the larger Rolls Royce in 1931. There, the brand was neglected. Now, with the help of Volkswagen, the Bentley legacy lives on once again in the Continental GT V8 S.